I'm Alex, and welcome back to another episode of Each week I pick a topic I know a little bit about and we learn about it together. And today we're talking about something that is, in my opinion, the most watched and the biggest sport in the country that I'm from, of Australia. It's rugby league. The game is brutal, fast, and tribal. In places like Australia, New Zealand, and northern parts of England, it's almost a religion. But something I realised recently is that while I've watched it almost my entire life, I actually didn't know where it came from and how it started. Why was it called rugby league? Why are there 13 players? And how did a working class dispute in England end up creating one of the toughest sports that's played on earth? So today we're breaking down the origins, the rules, the culture, and the future of my favourite sport, rugby league. At its core, rugby league is actually a very simple sport. You run hard and tackle hard, as the old saying goes. But to give it a bit more nuance, two teams of 13 players try to move the ball down the field and score by grounding it over the try line. Each team will get 6 tackles in a set to get as far down the field as possible, or to try and score on the opposition try line should they be near it. You score a try, you get 4 points. You then convert that try by kicking a goal, you've got yourself another 2. You miss your tackles and you'll get punished. It's a game built on 3 things: aggression, possession, and relentless pressure. But the thing that makes rugby league unique isn't just the rules, it's the history. Because the sport didn't start as rugby league, it started as a rugby union. Rugby league was born from a dispute, and like many sporting disputes, it was about money. In the late 1800s in northern England, rugby union was hugely popular with the working class communities. The problem was players weren't allowed to be paid. Union insisted on strict amateurism, but many players were miners, factory workers, and labourers. If they got injured playing rugby league, they lost their wages and their livelihoods. So clubs in northern England began paying players compensation for missed work, and the rugby union authorities banned this. So in 1895, 22 clubs met at the George Hotel in Huddersfield, northern England, and broke away from rugby union. They formed the Northern Rugby Football Union, and that organisation eventually became rugby league as we know it now. What started as a workers' rebellion became an entirely new sport. After the split, the new game began changing the rules to make it faster and more exciting than their rugby union counterparts. First, they reduced the number of players. Rugby union had 15 players. Rugby league decided to reduce it to 13 players to create more space on the field. Then they introduced the play the ball instead of rucks and mauls. Instead of fighting over the ball on the ground, the tackled player stands up and rolls the ball backwards, which then eventually became with the foot. This keeps the game flowing. In the 1960s, they introduced one of the most important rules in the sport's history, which was the tackle limit. Originally, teams had 4 tackles. Today, they now have 6. This rule completely changed the game because it created a cycle. You run hard, you gain meters, you kick for territory, and you defend. It turned the game into a part chess match and part gladiator sport. From its origins in northern England, rugby league quickly spread across the British Empire. Australia quickly became one of the sport's biggest homes. The first professional rugby league competition actually started in Australia in 1908. Today, that competition is what we call the National Rugby League, or as it's affectionately known as the NRL. The NRL is widely considered the greatest rugby league competition in the entire world. The sport is also hugely popular in the north of England, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Tonga, and Samoa. A little fact, rugby league is actually the national sport in only one country, Papua New Guinea. Few sports dominate a country the way rugby league does over there. You should see it, they're like celebrities. One of the reasons rugby league is so intense is the tribalism around it. Clubs are deeply tied to their communities, such as the West Tigers, which is my team that represents parts of the inner west and southwest Sydney, to the Broncos, who represents all of Brisbane. Some areas and teams have massive rivalries, like the Parramatta Eels and the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs.
Glenn Hughes, long ball for Silver, then Talau in the corner.
Or the biggest one in clubland, the Roosters and the Rabbitohs.
Comes back to the inside, gives it to Merritt for the line.
But the biggest rivalry in rugby league in general isn't between clubs, it's between two states. Which brings me to State of Origin.
Takes you to a better place, but I doubt it. After that, they killed his mother and never spoke about it.
Every year, Queensland and New South Wales face off in a 3-game series that basically stops the country. Players who are teammates in clubland all season suddenly become enemies. It's mate versus mate and state versus state. And the intensity is legendary. Some of the biggest names in the sport, like Cameron Smith, Jonathan Thurston, and in my opinion, the greatest rugby league player to have ever pulled on a jersey, Andrew Johns, all built their reputations in Origin battles. It is widely considered one of the toughest field sports in the entire world. Players repeatedly collide at full speed with almost no padding. Players, depending on any position, can make upwards of 30 to 40 tackles and can run from anywhere between 6 to 9 kilometres, also depending on their position on the field. And unlike sports like American football, play very rarely stops. The ball is always in motion and the physical toll is enormous on the players, which is why durability and toughness are so celebrated in the game that I and the country I live in love. The game today isn't just bigger, faster and more athletic than ever, it's also the best position it's ever been in financially. The NRL has become a multi-billion-dollar business and competition with huge TV audiences, and stars of the game today like Reece Walsh and Nathan Cleary are global names in the sport. The international game is also becoming more competitive than it used to be anyway. Pacific Island nations like Tonga and Samoa have become serious powerhouses. In the 2022 Rugby League World Cup, Samoa even reached the final for the first time in the game's history. About rugby league made me realise it's more than just a sport. It's history, it's culture, and it's community. What started as a dispute about paying workers became one of the toughest and most passionate sports on the planet, in my opinion. And whether you're watching in Sydney, Leeds, Auckland, or Port Moresby, when that ball gets kicked off, you know exactly what's coming. Controlled chaos and a great night of viewing. And that, my friends, is rugby league. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you next week where we'll get the chance to learn about another topic. Bye for now.